In the last couple of videos, we have looked at the user details interface, which is a contract maintained by the Spring Security whenever it tries to deal with the user details. And at the same time, whenever we want to customize the user schema or contract as per requirement, then we should always implement user details interface. And at the same time, we also looked at the user detail service interface, which have only single method, which will load the user details from the persistent layer of database or LDAP by using a username. But if you have scenarios where your application also has to handle creating, updating, deleting the user details, then user detail service interface will not be enough. In all such scenarios, we should go ahead and implement user details manager interface, which internally extends user details service interface as well. So in this video, let's try to see inside the framework of Spring Security about the user details manager interface. Now we are inside the user details manager interface present inside our Spring framework with this package. Now, as we discussed in the slide, user details manager extending user detail service. That means whatever single method that we have inside user detail service, load user by username, will also present in this interface, and whoever want to implement this user details manager has to provide a concrete implementation for all these methods. Like if I want to have a scenario of to create an user, then we will call create user, and as you can expect, the argument of this method is user details. So whatever input argument that you're sending to this create user, update user, it has to follow the schema provided by user details interface. Similarly, in the case of updating the user details, we can call update user, and for deleting user from your database or LDAP server, we should override this method, followed by, if you have a scenario where you want to allow the user to change password by themselves, then you can override this method and implement accepting the old password and new password and eventually update in the database. And lastly, we also have a simple method which is user exists. Suppose you don't want to load the entire details of the user. You just wanted to check if the user that I'm going to provide with the username is present inside my database or not. So for all such scenarios, you can always implement the method user exists in your custom class. So this is about user details manager and how it extends user detail services and what type of methods available inside this interface. So it's very clear. The very first thing that in Spring Security we have to understand is user details, which holds the schema or blueprint of user, and then we have user detail service, which have only single method where we can load the user details by using a username. On top of that, we also have user details manager, which will allow you to manage user details like creating, updating, deleting, change password, and user exists check. So all such things are possible using user details manager. In the next video, let's try and look what are the default implementations provided by Spring Security which extends this user details manager. That means we have three famous default implementation from Spring Security where they override all these methods by extending this user details manager. So let's try to look into them in detail in the next video. Thank you. Bye.